What's up, everyone? Welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today we have another amazing interview with Kieran, the founder of Illuvium. It's one of my favorite games to stream on Twitch, and I just love how stunning and beautiful it is. I also love the strategy of the battles. That being said, let's get right into it. I really do think you guys are going to enjoy everything that Kieran has to say. And that Australian accent is
Hello everyone, my name is Jimmy. I also go by Billy in football. Most call me Billy in the Web3 universe. And I am here with Kieran, CEO and co-founder of Illuvium today. Illuvium is a Web3 game that just did their global launch July 25th, but most of us have been creeping in here before, and a lot of us are in here after. It's set in this mysterious alien world where players explore, battle, and collect powerful creatures called alluvials. And the story revolves around this crashed spaceship on a distant planet where players must uncover the secrets of the strange world while capturing alluvials to help them in their journey. There's three main parts in this game, which makes it very unique and, quite frankly, an amazing experience, depending on where your mind is that day. Do you want to get actively involved and go in that third person open world? I would call it more of like an action RPG, where you can go and collect your resources, collect those alluvials so you can battle in the second area of Illuvium called the arena. And now, arena, I am not very good at. I'm gonna be honest. I get smoked even by the computers. The training stages. I understand the synergies, so I'm a Magic the Gathering player. So I understand how to build the proper decks, and I'm pretty familiar with knowing how synergies work together. But I'm still on a learning curve here, trying to get my bearings in arena. But man, it is a lot of fun. I ended up watching another interview that you did, where you were talking about the arena and having these suggestions come in about maybe having I can't remember what it's called, where they do like one step at a time, like somebody does this one action, then
Yeah,
next one,
yeah,
and I'm with you 100%. I would not like that gameplay. I'm here for the gameplay that you have set up. I think that's a great choice that you made there, and I'm all for that. The third part, and this happens to be my favorite just simply because I can do this on the go, away from my
hmm
machine while I'm at my son's practices or I'm out shopping, pulling out my phone and playing this game, zero. And I'm hoping we can dive a little bit more on the plans that you see going forward with Zero. Just a highly addictive game, and I can tell it's kind of at the bare bones right now. And I'm sure there's a lot of exciting features, but I want to hear what direction you're going to be going in with that eventually here. But together, all of these elements create such a rich experience for anybody diving into Illuvium, where exploration, that strategy, the resource management, they all tie in together. And what I found really amazing about the game is I don't feel like I have to really dive into one specific one to really maximize my time, as short as it is, to have a great time there. So, did I miss anything about covering Overworld, Arena, Zero? Is there
No,
anything?
that's pretty much it. That's a good high level rundown.
Excellent, excellent. Well, if you are ready, we will dive into some of these questions here.
Cool.
So, first one being you had your global launch July 25th. I want to just kind of reflect on that for a moment. What were the biggest challenges you faced during this launch, and how did you and your team address them?
hmm So we had some issues with onboarding in general. I think we had a lot of players I think it was over 50,000 players that were in the sandbox environment, which was really good. It allowed us to test out a whole bunch of systems, but what we probably didn't pay enough attention to was the migration of getting someone to go from their sandbox account to their mainnet account, and that was a pretty finicky process. So a lot of people were a bit frustrated with that. We also had things like in ILLUVIUM Zero for landholders. They're quite valuable assets, and so a lot of people didn't feel comfortable just holding it in a passport account. And so now that we've released the secondary wallet feature, it allows you to keep your wallet in a secure storage and be able to play on it. So that was another challenge that we had. In terms of just onboarding in general, a lot of people wanted to just pay with a simple method, like a credit card, or a debit card, like PayPal. Like we didn't put enough emphasis on that, and we figured that a lot of people would just, native crypto would bring in their ETH, but even things like not being able to support cross-chain payments, like if someone is playing on Solana or Avalanche or whatever, like buy fuel from their native network was something that we noticed straight away, and we've been working on them pretty hard for the last couple of weeks, and all of those things are going to be released ideally by the end of this month. So you will be able to pay with credit card. You will be able to pay from a cross chain, and ideally we're looking to onboard a lot more people into the ecosystem once we open that up.
Yeah, and I would say that I was going to save this for another question, but since we're on this, I would say that seems to be my number one challenge when discussing anybody that's a traditional gamer, hasn't gotten into Web3 yet, talking to them about how you can get involved in Web3, get into crypto, get into that play to earn type mentality. And the first thing that I always run into is, where do I point them first for which exchange, so they can start purchasing the Ethereum, to then setting up their Immutable X wallet. I think you made it pretty simple from the website to connect using MetaMask or the Immutable X, but it still tends to turn off those traditional gamers. Do you have any strategies on how to overcome that, maybe streamline that a little bit even easier, or possibly even having a tutorial that you can implement into the game that could reference outside, and you do almost these missions outside to get people familiar with the workflows of getting something deposited, getting something transferred, and what that experience is like, especially with people that are already having that. I've probably, the people that are listening in, they probably heard me beat this to death, but the stigma around Web3 and crypto is not hidden. It's very outspoken by those that are actively against it, and the main concerns are just, or what I've found is the main concern with them is they just don't feel comfortable in how that process works. So
yeah.
So I'll bring that question back. Do you have any ideas or strategies on how you can combat that, or recommendations for those that are trying to get people onboarded in that may have those questions?
Yeah, so a new user that's coming into the system is very likely to just want to buy fuel using a credit card, right, or a debit card, like something like they've got money, very similar to how you would onboard a user in a mainstream game. You want there might be an in-game currency, not on chain or whatever, but they just buy it. and they use their credit card, or they use PayPal, or some really, really simple method that's accessible to everyone. And ideally behind that is only just an email and password. And that's what we're pretty close to going to. In that case, it shouldn't be as jarring. And that's obviously just getting them into the ecosystem. Once they're here, that's when we need to have the educational content. And that will come from us internally. We already have quite a few guides out there, but also what we're going to be running very soon from a marketing perspective is a lot of educational content coming from streamers. So we can hit all different types of languages, and we will create a bit of an incentivization plan to get those content creators to make content, not just about this is how you go and buy fuel in Illuvium, but the next steps. I've gone out, bought fuel, traveled to a region, and I've caught an alluvial. What do I do now? How do I get onto the marketplace? Like, how do I buy and sell things on the marketplace? And how do I recognize what might be a decent purchase on the marketplace? Like all of these little nuanced things that are you learn over time. We want to come from a natural place. And of course, Illuvium needs to have official guides that work them through that. But a lot of people in gaming want to just learn through YouTube videos and Twitch streamers. And if we can build a really good platform for content creators to want to be able to make this content, then I think it's going to be a lot easier for people to come into the ecosystem and not make it so daunting for them, because it is a pretty alien sort of concept what what we have here.
So let's kind of put the financials to the side, because that Illuvium does have, even if you didn't bring any money into it, it has such a beautiful landscape, and the biomes that are available, and just the experience with the music. And well, I mean, even before that, the tutorial, the cinematics that we're playing with it, I'm like, wow, this is like a movie. This is really cool, and I'm super pumped to get in this, but I almost didn't want it to end. Do you plan on having additional cinematics throughout the experience as people hit more objectives later on into the game?
Yeah, absolutely. So the important thing, and I think what a lot of people don't realize, is that we're in open beta. So we're going to be building on the experience a ton. And one of those things is the delivery of the story. So multiple cutscenes where you actually get a little bit more information about what's happening in the world. And as you get to different milestones, you'll be able to uncover more of the storyline. And I think that's a big part of what's missing from the overworld right now, is just the interaction that you would typically get in an RPG. So things like trainer battles, where you can go and get your first items off an NPC. He says, go out into the world, collect these different resources, come back to me. You do that. He says, oh, now let's have a fight and see where you're up to. You beat the guy. He gives you some kind of loot, and he drops a little bit more about the storyline. That's something that we want to do. And then just typical quests as you go along, where we're uncovering more of the storyline, and ideally entwining some cinematics as you go through, because the storyline, if you read it as a book, you would be extremely entertained. Like it's one of those things where it's like, whoa, like I want to read the next page, the next chapter, when's the next part 2 and stuff like that. But it takes time to be able to build these. And obviously we had a very ambitious target of 3 games in 3 years. Now that we have a really good platform across all 3 games, it's about building on top of that and getting things like the lore and storyline delivered to people in a way that keeps them entertained as they are doing the core gameplay element, which is capturing alluvials, crafting weapons, getting yourself ready to go into the arena.
So I was trying to look for an updated roadmap. The one on the website, we're reaching the end of the roadmap that's on the website, but obviously we have a much grander vision, right? I believe last I heard you had like this 10 to 15 year vision plan for Illuvium. When can we start seeing or hearing about some of the new upcoming milestones and how they'll align with this long-term vision and broader Illuvium ecosystem that you're building?
Yeah, so the end of this month, we're going to have a roadmap out which details all of the different plans. We've sort of hinted at it a little bit here and there. I published a couple of things on Twitter and stuff like that. But in the meantime, we need to make the games that we have better experiences. So there's multiple things to do with that in each game mode. So for Overworld, it's adding things like the storyline that I was just explaining. And when I say adding the storyline, I mean the story is there. It's about delivering it. So through quests, trainer battles. We're also adding combat, so it's not just the auto battler experiences. You more of a sort of Pokemon like Monster Hunter style, where you actually fight the creatures in the overworld, and then adding more of a social aspect to it. So factions will come in, plus multiplayer in terms of being able to go into the overworld with friends and fighting alluvials together, that type of stuff to make it more immersive in the overworld. In Arena, we need to add Leviathan for the battles where you want to actually bring in your own alluvials, because they all have unique stats, they have levels, and right now that game is normalized in a way where everyone's equal, but there'll be multiple different modes where you can go in and if I've collected some of the most powerful alluvials, that transpires into that game mode, and all of a sudden I'm very powerful, and there'll be things like leaderboard rewards and tournaments that we start running. So to really incentivize people to either go into the overworld yourselves and try and capture the best alluvials possible, or if that's not really your jam, and you sort of touched on that earlier, you don't need to do all three. You could just be an arena player. And in that case, you're probably likely to go into the marketplace, and I might buy your alluvials because you are selling them and you don't want to play arena. You're more about the RPG open world. So you're happy to sell your alluvials, right? Then you'll go capture another one, right, and sell it to another player. And so building up the arena ecosystem with new modes like that, which are very, very close to being released. And then on Zero, and also going mobile on Arena as well. That's the really important one. Porting to mobile.
Cross that off my list, because that was my biggest question I was excited for.
Yeah, so being able to play a game while you're sitting in bed and just hanging out. Or you're as you say, you're at your son's practice or whatever, and you can just bring it out. It's a little 15-minute game like that. Is, I think, going to make it accessible to so many different people. So that's Arena. And then Zero is more about making it like sort of this hub for the rest of the world, right? So any features like leveling, right now, I'm more of the type of player that likes going quickly into a region, scanning to see what is the best things in there, and I'll just go and get them. I'm not a massive fan of the grind of going in and leveling up the alluvials myself. So for me, but I still want to fuse powerful alluvials, right? So how do we get around that? Someone in Illuvium Zero will have a training gym, right? So not only will they be able to level up my alluvials, they will be able to specifically train different stats. So if I want to make an alluvial beefier and be more of a tank, then I can drop it off in someone else's training gym, someone who's got a land parcel and is able to offer this service to me, and they can charge whatever they want for that, right? It's a free market, similar to fuel. They can say training at my gym is 100 Solon per hour or whatever it might be, and I'm going to get my alluvial back. It's going to be more tanky. It's going to have more health. And then at that point, I'm happy because when I go into the arena, I'm able to sustain battles a lot longer. And the landholder's happy because they've got another thing that they can, another service that isn't just providing fuel to other players, it's now training them. And we've got multiple other ideas that we're talking about for Zero to become like a service-based game where other players, whether it be Arena or Overworld or any new games that we build, you always go back to this hub where they offer these services that just make things more convenient and easier for you to navigate the universe.
Yeah, I'm super excited for those updates. Just simply as I said, the timing thing, I'm more away from my machine than I'm on it. So having those opportunities to kind of cross over and do some more mobile would definitely give me more opportunities in Illuvium to get after it, get those arenas runs in, get those missions done, continue to collect the resources. Since we're on Zero for the moment, two things. One, kind of sparked based on what you said, where people can set a market price for doing training. And it sounded like it would be resources that would be the cost rather than, I think right now everything's based on Illuvium. The ILV tokens would not be part of the market. It's all Ethereum based. For on the market for purchasing would be Ethereum, but you're saying fuel would be the cost for arenas that you're expecting.
Yeah.
The next kind of question to follow that is, would it be like contract based where you put out there, I have an arena open, this is what I'm charging for it, or would somebody put out a request like I'm looking, or how do you envision people matching up when we're getting into the tens of thousands of people, and how do you need a community to connect people?
So the way that I see it is there'll be like an interface in the overworld where you can go up to, and it's basically a window into all of the different training gyms that are available. Okay. Some are going to be, and you'll have a filtering system. Some will be full because you only have a certain amount of slots at any given time to train these alluvials up. Some will be open, so you can say available, you can say full. I mean, the ones that are full aren't really going to help you, or maybe they are. And this is where it gets interesting. Gameplay in Zero is going to determine how well you are, how good you are at training up an alluvial. So someone that is very on top of their land parcels and making sure the minute that training, one exercise is complete, they start another one and another one. And so it's still using the principles of an idle clicker, but the person that's more in tune with their land is going to give a better result to that person who is paying for the service. Exactly like in real life. If you go and drop your son off at baseball practice or whatever it is, and he throws 5 pitches instead of 100 in that hour, he's going to get better doing the 100 pitches. And a good trainer is going to sit there and say, hey, we got to throw a few more, and give some instructions. And obviously it's not going to be as detailed as like a real life scenario, but the reality is the more that person is attentive to their gym, the better the result is going to be. And then that will be reflected either in customer ratings or like testimonials that you get. So when you go and look at it, it's like, okay, this is going to cost me $10 to leave my alluvials here. Am I going to get that value out of it? You know what I mean? Like it's, or you have someone where, you know, you go in there and they have amazing ratings and they give you your alluvial back. And it's like, oh, dude, I only gained like a tiny little bit. Like you clearly were not paying attention over the last 24 hours. Like, and then you say, you know what? I give you 1 star, and their rating goes from 4.99 to 4.98. And it's like that. And so that's the way that I see it. It's obviously it's just an idea that we're fleshing out now, but that's the way that I see it. And it's, while there's hundreds of thousands and potentially millions of at some stage looking for the services, right now there can only ever be 20,000 that are available based on how many land plots there are. But then maybe you can build 2 training gyms. If you get to a higher level in Illuvium 0, that allows you to open up and build 2. Maybe that costs you a heap of fuel to do that. But because you're renowned for your training services, you want to add more into it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You start a business training alluvials.
Yeah, that sounds like fantastic features coming, and I really like the idea of having almost like this rating system. I am curious of how, you know, how you could combat potentially people abusing it. Like somebody does hit everything, yet somebody gives them a 1 star because maybe they see like a guild tag on there that they don't like, and like, even though you did awesome, I'm still against you. So it'll be interesting to see how that develops and the challenges. Yeah.
It's kind of social, right? Like I can go and say I ate at a restaurant and I'm the pizza place down the road, and I give it a 1 star, right? Like there needs to be an admin system where someone can challenge a rating and say, hey, this person didn't actually eat here. In our case, we know if they use the alluvials, and we can look at it and say, you know, but I think over time, this social, I love the idea of the social proof system where, you know, it is a real world system where, you know, obviously there are going to be some, call it, you know, assholes out there, but at the same time, there's most people are going to be fair about it and treat it like a service, and therefore, you know, you're going to get a pretty good idea.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about something that I've been really excited to ask you since I found out that you and I are going to meet, and it deals with working with family. I've always had ambitions growing up with my brothers that we were going to start, you know, like a restaurant, or we were going to start like this outdoors like place, a fishing or hunting store or something. Like we had all this ambition, and then we all grew up. End of story. like we all kind of split up. But you have this rich story of working with 2 of your brothers. Well, your other brother, I believe, was an investor in this project. That's so unique in any aspect, not just specific to gaming. So can you talk about like how working closely with family has influenced the development and direction of your project? And are there any specific advantages or maybe even unforeseen challenges that you've encountered by having to work with your brothers?
Yeah, so well, first of all, there were 3, and then our other brother, there's 4 of us, and then our other brother was the investor.
Yep.
One of them left earlier this year, I believe, and now he's going and doing his own thing. But I would say the advantages of it are reliability, right? Like I know that they are going to work their ass off, like I'm going to work my ass off. And there's also a level of like understanding between like communication, you know, like as soon as I'm talking to one of our one of our DAO members, I was about to say a word that I probably shouldn't. No, but because they're not like employees or anything. But as soon as I think about, okay, I got to go and speak to so and so, who's the head of department of X or whatever. Obviously, I have a great relationship, and I really try to be on a personal level with everyone in our organization. That does get a little bit hard when we're talking. There's 150 people, but there's still a level of there's a difference between when I give Aaron a call and I say, hey man, like it's just immediately like I grew up with him and I know him, he knows me. There's no need to be anything other than just raw, straight to the point, and it just gets shit done. Like that trust and reliability that I have in and that he has back in me means that we know that we're gonna do absolutely everything. We have the same sort of like never say die mentality, and it helps. Like it does help a lot. But then I'd say some of the disadvantages are you grew up with this person, right? Like there's fights, all the time. And Aaron and I have gotten to a really good place where it's pretty much smooth sailing now. He knows what I look after, I know what he looks after, and we're all good there. And there's hasn't been a single issue for a long time. With my other brother, though, it was a nightmare. There was constant blow-ups all the time. He's an amazing artist, and he brought so much to the table. And so it's one of those things where I'm kind of like, I don't know, what do I like? We absolutely needed him in the beginning. He's the reason that the art style, the graphics are so amazing. But when I got to the point where it was like, okay, he's leaving, I was like, shit, what are we going to do here? But we've matured to a point, the organization has matured to a point where it wouldn't matter. Like this thing is a beast that is moving along, and it's bigger than any one person or any one group of people. And so, it was just one of those things that after 3 years, you work with family for that long, shit happens,
I'm applauding you for the patience for 3 years. Like that, I'm just trying to envision putting my brothers in your guys' situation. Maybe 3 days. Yeah, that's about right.
Yeah.
That's so cool though, and what an experience for you and your family. And I just have nothing but good praises. Family is so close, or family is so important, and to have everybody so close, and having a healthy relationship with your family. I mean, that's the reason I joined our fam guild. I'm not going any further beyond talking about our guild. Other than that, I just really appreciate the family aspect, and that's why I wanted to ask about that. Now we'll talk about your extended family, the DAO, and the community involvement, because I'm sure you look at them like family as well, because you're all growing together and experiencing this together, just like a normal family with the ups and downs and all the fun excitement in between. So the DAO and the community governance are central to ILLUVIUM's philosophy of decentralization, this player-driven decision-making. Can you share some examples of how the community has already influenced some major decisions in the game development? And how do you ensure that the voices of the DAO are effectively integrated into the project's direction?
Yeah, so there's been multiple different DAO decisions that have sort of molded and crafted the way that ILLUVIUM is today. First one was a really, really big one, and that was more on our tokenomics and how the tokens would be distributed. The DAO stepped in and said, hey, the white paper, it makes sense, but we need to change a couple of things there. And that made a huge difference to the way, the fairness, I would say, that the token is distributed. So that was one thing. With Illuvium Zero, that was never on the roadmap originally. And so how we introduce land into the ecosystem and how the fuel system would actually be created was a big portion of that came from the DAO and the council. And then just a myriad of other decisions like marketing-based stuff. There's been like how we actually shape the governance itself was very had a lot of contribution from the community, because that's obviously how they can interact. And yeah, just some like there's been 45 successful IIPs that have changed the course of the direction of Illuvium over the last 3-4 years. So a lot of stuff.
Excellent. Just double checking here. I thought I saw a question that somebody had posted for me that they wanted me to ask that was related to it, but this was not related. So we're going to move on to back to the game, though, because the game is why we're here, why we're excited. I want to talk about balancing the game modes between Arena, Overworld, and Zero. How do you plan to maintain a healthy balance between these modes to ensure that each remains engaging and relevant to the players that decide to either focus in on one particular type of game within Illuvium versus trying to get involved in all three to the highest level?
Mm-hmm. So more content. Basically, the things that we touched on in the beginning, making Arena a better game that has fun modes for people to come and enjoy, that creates demand for Illuvials, right? Like if you want to be playing in those tournaments, if you want to be earning through leaderboards and ranking up, you need good Illuvials. In order to have good Illuvials, you either get into the overworld yourself or you buy them off someone else who is capturing them for you. In order for you to capture those Illuvials, you need fuel, right? And so if there's demand for people to capture Illuvials, you're always going to have people on the other side in Illuvium Zero generating that fuel, because they're the ones who are making money from selling that fuel to other players. So it's this symbiotic relationship between all three games, where as long as there's demand there, then they all sort of continue firing. And the exciting thing is, it's not just right now we have Arena where you can use these Illuvials, but the plan over the next 4 or 5 years is to have multiple different games where you utilize the Illuvial as your, basically, call it, access pass to these new games. You're not going to need to pay. You just simply go in and start playing with the Illuvials. The paying part is you got to have those Illuvials. So you either do that through the overworld, or you are purchasing them from the marketplace.
So what measures are being taken to ensure, each economy or mini economy within each, integrates properly? You got incentives enough for people to participate at the level that's needed. If, let's say, there's this influx in Overworld where there's just this super high demand for gas, then all of a sudden you don't have, the amount of active users producing those resources. What measures are being taken, and what sort of plans do you have to ensure that each one will take on its own form, its own life, and grow together rather than maybe just one kind of taking off and the others kind of fizzling?
So there's the ability for the DAO to temper the production of fuel, and there's a couple of other things that we can do as well. So in adding more experiences like the training gyms to Illuvium Zero, that means if you're going to train up an alluvial for someone, that's going to cost you more fuel. So that's less fuel that you can sell to other people. So you need to make a decision, which one do I want to do? Now, if in the opposite, if the overworld has huge demand and we need to produce more gas, we are able to tweak that. Right now it's manual, but we're actually building an algorithm at the moment which allows the output of fuel to be automated, so it goes up and down based on demand in the overworld. So there's that constant return on an investment for the landholders, but also just filtering that through with other features as well. So it's not just fuel that you sell, it's fuel that you consume as well by doing these other services or providing these other services to players in the ecosystem.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Yeah, I was a little concerned about that because I think that's a challenge that a lot of these new studios, Web3 is in its infancy stages, and when I'm looking at other game titles that are pushing towards their open beta levels, and what I'm seeing is hyper focus on certain areas with not taking notice of concerns that the community is bringing up, such as the barriers of entry, the costs to get into these other zones, because the people that are selling the resources or selling the items that are required to achieve or reach certain areas are outpricing the normal, I would say the traditional transitioned gamer that's
What
not
is reasonable?
yeah, it becomes a concern of I love the game, but then I can't afford it, or I love the game and I just don't know if I want to invest in it yet. So I guess it's comforting to know that you guys are continuously monitoring that and able to adjust and allocate resources, accordingly. It still, I think, is going to be a challenge that we're going to keep our eye on as well, on just how do we get that paradigm shift in those that are really concerned about, well, to even enjoy certain content, I gotta pay for it, to transitioning it to, you know what, I spend $5 on a cover to go see a band, or when I go into a restaurant and I get a beer and I'm just hanging out with my friends, going to do that experience, you're spending a little bit here and there, and now we're on a machine in this wonderful open world that almost feels transcending into its own universe that you're getting put into, and having those decisions, having those decisions to go, I can justify doing that to really appreciate and enjoy what is being offered through this game. So that's good to know. It'll be something that we're going to keep our eye on, because we've got several streamers, and we want to figure out a way that we can curate a message that is in uniform across all our streamers that broadcast Illuvium. We want to be able to share, this is what you can expect, this is what's being done to curb some of the concerns. Yeah, we'll be able to hash that out over time, and we're excited to see that continue to grow. So let's talk about those traditional gamers again, because I think that's the number one challenge that all studios are going to face, is how do we onboard them, but how do we retain them after we onboard them? Do you have any strategies that you're looking to implement to really try to break through that barrier and get those traditional gamers starting to really consider a Web3 that sort of goes beyond just the, well, you own the NFT, and you own this and own that and you can make money. They've all heard that and they're not really motivated by that. Do you have any other strategies from any other angles that you can sort of pinpoint or that you would target to get people to really consider breaking from those traditional Web 2 games into a Web 3 game like Illuvium?
Yeah, so the way that we look at the universe is it's modular experiences that all connect into the overworld, and that's what brings us to the end game of an MMO. And we think this is going to be a next generation MMO that not many people have really experienced before because it doesn't exist. So what I'm talking about is having the overworld be this place where you can go off into the arena and experience a completely different genre of game and battle people, but using the assets that you've already caught or bought inside of the overworld. Then seeing another part of the overworld, you go and there's a spaceship and it shoots you off into the air, and then you're into this battle royale where it's a whole nother region. And again, you're bringing in your alluvials to be in that battle royale with you.
Yeah.
Over another part of the overworld is like a race car, and you enter it, and it's like, okay, let's go. You can battle against other friends, more like a sort of stylized kart racing type game. And again, depending on the cart that you can choose will depend on the alluvials that you bring in, right? And so just this almost like a theme park, if you will, of different gaming experiences that are available to you by owning the core assets, which are alluvials, and then having that experience be tied to scarcity as well, where you can only capture these alluvials in sets. So once they're gone, you'll never be able to capture them again. Then we go into set 2, set 3, set 4. So when new gamers come into the ecosystem, they might have missed the first 3 years, right? So they go in and they like, friends finally convince them to try Illuvium. They're like, let's go to the racetrack and let's play that because it's super amounts of fun. Let's jump in. One guy has only got the alluvials available that he just caught, right? Because he's just come into the ecosystem. And so he might only have 30 different carts that he can choose. Whereas his friend who's been in multiple different sets, he might have 60 or 70 different carts that he can choose. And then he's going around the racetrack being like, oh my God, what are you using? Well, you can't use it because you don't own it. And therefore, he's either going to go into the marketplace and he's going to buy one of these things, which reactivates a player that might have had no longer been in the ecosystem, but he's still got assets that are that are available on the marketplace. And all of a sudden, he gets a notification. Boom! Your Atlas sold, and he's like, "Whoa, my Atlas sold!" He goes in, checks it out, and maybe that reactivates him to say, "Oh, I didn't know that they've launched another 2 experiences on the connected to the overworld now. I love Mario Kart. I'm going to jump in," and that type of that's the experience that having it all be that the good part of having it as NFTs, right? Like this interoperable ecosystem of games, molding it all together and saying, this is Illuvium.
Yeah. And you reference this like MMO, which is not quite part of the overworld yet. It kind of just brings my mind back to the World of Warcraft days where I'm expecting like a bunch of people running around like a main hub or something like that and interacting and then going on these fun missions. I know that's kind of looking into the future, and but is that sort of the concept that you're looking?
100%. So raids raids will be one of them, right? Like I grew up playing EverQuest, World of Warcraft, Guild Wars. Like, trust me, I played them all. And that social aspect, that grinding, getting your character up in levels, like just talking about it makes me want to jump back in.
I know, I'm getting
And
excited too.
yeah, and so there will be different dungeons for you to go into, and doing that socially is going to be a big part of it. Using your alluvials as creatures that fight for you is part of that experience, and yeah. But I think, like, World of Warcraft was such an awesome experience from that social gameplay where you can go and try and fight a big boss,
Yeah.
get the loot from it, get more powerful, and that progression was there. That we obviously want to bake into the overworld, and it will happen over time. But then as well, imagine having these little mini games inside of World of Warcraft that you could go and experience, utilizing the same assets, and you could only access this because you've gone and finished this quest, which is like a level 100 quest, and that gives you this sword, which is, it starts to become something that hasn't really been done before,
Yeah.
which is exciting.
You're speaking my language now. I'm about 7 years sober from World of Warcraft. Thank you. They don't give chips out for those, but
No.
the main concern was I'm spending all this time, but I'm not getting value. So I can see Illuvium as it transitions to that being another just obsession. And I'm kind of an obsessed mind. I know we've got quite a few in our community that follow that similar mindset. The collections from Magic the Gathering with the role playing and the community aspect of World of Warcraft, and really you're tying those all together. You're touching on a lot of senses that a lot of gamers love. And another one that I'm looking forward to in the future, being that trading card game background, is Illuvium Beyond. Do we have anything on when that may be shared? I've seen people reference it on videos, but it doesn't look like, at least out of the box, is available for a lot of people that may be investigating what that is.
So wave 1 and wave 2 has already been completed. Wave 3 is starting at the end of next month, maybe even early. We don't have a concrete date yet, or we haven't announced it anyway. And there's some really awesome cards to pick up in beyond wave 3. And I'm super excited about that. I've put so much money into Beyond. It's just instant gratification. It's like Magic, where you would go out and buy a deck, or Pokemon, where you would go and buy a deck of cards, and you're sifting through them. You're like, is it good? Is it good? Is it good? And so that is going to be really exciting. That's launching soon. The cool thing about that is, now that the ecosystem is, the games are live, we'll connect that up into Beyond. So there'll be utility there where you unlock cosmetics, whether they be skins, emotes, battle boards. So if you complete a collection in Beyond, you then all of a sudden have a soulbound emote, which you can flash up. And we've got some pretty funny emotes where you win an arena and you taunt your opponent by utilizing these emotes. And it's also a bit of a flex as well, because it's like, whoa, I've never seen that emote before. And it's like, oh wait, you haven't caught, or you haven't you don't have all 3 of the axolotl line, or whatever it might be. So yeah, there's a lot of plans for Illuvium Beyond coming up.
I don't foresee myself being able to use too many of those emotes based on my existing arena track record, but they do sound amazing nonetheless. One more thing on the social aspect in the MMO part. Do you foresee factions or guilds being a part of Illuvium at some point?
100%. So we actually just took it out, but you're meant to. We didn't quite have the feature in, but you should be able to, or you will very, very soon be able to choose your faction. You'll be able to chat to other players, so there'll be a social aspect of that. And we've got plans to add voice chatting and stuff like that. So yes, there will be factions, and it's tied to your belief, right? Because you don't know, as a ranger in Illuvium, you don't know what your purpose is yet. Your job is to figure that out over time. And there are some people that believe Illuvium is, I've got to be careful that I don't ruin it for people, but there's some that are more religious fanatics. There are some that more like atheists that don't believe that anything is special about the planet, and it's just something, it's just normal. And you choose your faction based on what you believe, and then the missions and quests that you get will be tailored towards those factions. You'll be able to have the social aspect of communicating with those people that share a similar belief to you. And we're definitely, it was actually something that I was talking about last night of when we're going to implement factions.
Excellent. Yep. That's been one of our questions that have been in our Illuvium discords on when our guilds or factions, when can we start grouping up together? I'm excited to hear that's in the near future, and those that are watching are probably just as excited as I am to see what's next. So I have two questions I wanted to ask that pertain to the gameplay, and then I've got one final question to wrap us up here. So the first question being, will there be, and I know this is one of your favorite aspects, it seems like you bring this up on a lot of your talks, the gauntlet in Arena. Very addicting. I'm afraid to start it, to be honest with you, because, as I said, I've got a pretty addictive personality. So I don't know if I'll ever be able to. My son's practice, I'm sorry, we have to cancel. He's sick. And getting it on mobile, that will that'll cure the ailments of the house, if you know what I mean. Will there be missions for Gauntlet mode in the future, and if so, how or what would they look like?
Yes, so we definitely want to tie missions and milestones to Gauntlet. It's been one of the reasons. It just sort of was missed. Obviously, Ascendant mode, the 1v1, there's missions there, so a lot of gameplay is happening there. But because Gauntlet is in alpha, we weren't even sure it was going to be in time. So in the next couple of weeks, you'll see milestones come up for doing Gauntlet matches, which I think is just much more fun than playing 1v1. And I think not having to do the deck builder, there's so many aspects where it just makes it more quick. It's casual. It's more RNG. It's a little bit more fun for me. So yes, they will be coming very, very soon. Then and part of that will be like, win one Gauntlet match or finish in the top 4, play 10 Gauntlet matches in a day, like those types of missions. Sorry, what was the second question there?
It was, when will there be missions, and if so, what would they look like? So I think you actually hit on both of those. Yep. Perfect. And the final one actually came in to somebody that's listening in while we're talking. They keep asking, when are the carts coming? Because they are over eccentric and excited on finding out when carts. So.
Look, unfortunately, I'm a massive Mario Kart fan, so I wish it was sooner, but it's very likely once. Our main focus right now is getting multiplayer, quests, combat, Leviathan, lobbies, like there's all the training gyms, like there's about 12 different features that we're looking to get in to the existing games. Then we'll likely be doing our battle royale, which I touched on lightly. But it's not decided, right? That's where the DAO comes in, and it's completely up to them to choose when and what we build next. And the DAO gets to say, hey, we would like this. but sorry, the team gets to say, this is what we would like to build based on XYZ criteria, but ultimately it's up to you guys.
Perfect. You heard it. DTD, I know you're listening and you heard it. Get into the governance, get into the DAO, make your voice heard. Let's get it moving. All right. We're going to finish with sort of a lighter, fun one. It kind of steps away from Illuvium, right? Because you've been leading this groundbreaking project for, I think, 2020 you started, right?
Yeah.
And I'm
Yeah.
sure. So when I look at that, 4 years is insane to put out this much content in this. You say there's more polishing to be done, but it doesn't seem like too much for being immersive and exciting and in such an enjoyable experience right out of the gate. How much did COVID play into that? I mean, having more time off. Were you leading into COVID and going, all right, well, we can't go back to work anymore. Let's start up a studio and make an amazing universe called Illuvium. It's off the top of my head, and let's just get to work. And here we are 4 years later. Is that kind of how the story went, or?
Nah, not really. I do remember. So I started in crypto. I bought Ethereum at $6 originally. It was like $5.90 or something. It's something stupid. And I ended up losing a whole bunch of money. Buying 100 grand worth of Ethereum at $6, I somehow lost money. Don't ask me how. But then I just hated crypto. I was like, God, I was saving that money for a deposit on a house. I'd worked like 10 years to get that much money, and I just blew it all. And it's kind of when I'm into something, I'm all in. And I didn't like crypto. And then when I came back in early 2020 and I saw like yield farming and some of the crazy schemes that were going on, it was COVID, and my tech startup that I had that I'd been working on for 4 years just got crushed we had just launched pickup through DoorDash in our restaurants. We had 1,000 restaurants that we were signed up to in this service, and all of a sudden you couldn't go to restaurants. And I was just like, how could this is the worst timing possible. And so it was a bit like that, I guess. Like I was just sitting at home being like, well, we're screwed there. So I may as well just start doing a bit of crypto trading. And I did that for like 9 months. And there was situations where when I say I go all in, I go all in. Like I would be sitting there, and my roommate at the time, he would be like, hey man, you just still trading? And I'd turn like a robot and be like, yeah, I am. And he's like, you should go to bed, man. It's like 11 o'clock. He would wake up, I would still be there, and it would be like, I don't know, 8 a.m. or something. And he's like, dude, did you go to bed last night? And I was like, what? No, dude, I stop disturbing me. And so it was kind of like that, where I just was so immersed in all of the different categories in crypto. And then when I saw gaming, I was like, I still remember the day where I called one of my brothers. I was like, you've got to trust me on this. Like this, we've always talked about starting a gaming studio. And I was like, this is the future of gaming.
Yeah.
And I couldn't even buy the assets. It was like a random network. I had to buy like 3 NFTs that cost me like $1,000. And he's watching this and he's like, dude, have you lost your mind? Like, this is not the future of gaming. This is so stupid. And it took some convincing. It was like 2 or 3 weeks. And eventually he was like, yeah, I do see it now. Like NFTs, like this actually makes sense. And then, I don't know, the rest is history.
Yeah. And it's definitely history at this point, because you guys have something, I think you have something special here. And some of the things that you've hinted at going forward, I know the MMO part, getting your group together, getting the Illuvials together, going and taking on these big giant bosses in a raid, like that just brings up so many fond memories that Like I said, I'm gonna have to skip a few of these practices so we can get back into this.
Yeah.
How do you personally maintain a healthy work-life balance, though? Because I'm sure this ambitious venture, this drive, is just so consuming of your mental and physical self that what kind of grounds you, brings you back to your normal self? Do you have any like routines or practices you follow to stay grounded and focused?
I mean, look, I wish I could sit here and give you a secret recipe for being able to go through shit like this, but uh, I've just become hardened over time. This is my fifth startup that I've been involved in. Uh, you know, you go through startups, and I've done them for so long now. We're talking like going on more than 15 years. It is just that, like, not knowing where your next dollar is going to come from, like how am I going to raise more funds, like how are we going to build the product and get it better, the stresses of external markets that can change things. Like I just explained to you, one day COVID happens and all of a
Mm-hmm.
sudden that drives a stake right through a startup that I poured 4 years of my life into.
Mm-hmm.
What does that do to a person? You know, you wake up and it's like, okay, on to the next thing. You know what I mean? Like it fucks you up so bad that
Yeah.
I feel like I can just take so much punishment now that
Mm-hmm.
not much phases me. I mean, you look at the market, we were at $1,800. Now we're at $45. It's like people are like, how do you feel? I'm like, fine. I just got to keep going. Like
Yeah.
we've got something amazing here. We've got to build it up. Like it just, I don't know, things kind of glance off me more than I would say a regular person. And then the really big help is my family, right? Like having my wife who just knows how difficult it is to navigate with the community, the stresses of, I try and uh, obfuscate as much stress on the team as possible and try and just say, you guys do you and build.
Mm-hmm.
And I will work out like, where's our runway going to come from? How are we going to, be able to keep building for the next 4 or 5 years? And that takes a toll on me. And, if having my wife there to just say like, I get it, someone to listen to, someone for me to call out community members who I have an argument with or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
and just recalibrate. And then, having a daughter recently, it kind of just puts things in perspective. It's like
Yeah.
there is something else outside of working, 12, 15-hour days almost, every single day.
I want to say I do my homework, so this isn't some sort of beyond stalker. Are you coming up to your 1 year anniversary since you got married?
Yeah. It's actually crazy that you say that. I woke up 2 days ago and I was like, oh shit. And I was like, no, no, no. That we got married here and then we went overseas. So
Uh-huh.
technically we've got like two, but yeah, no, it's 5 days away. And we're gonna be at Gamescom
Mm-hmm.
when it happens. So I've got to like work out my strategy there.
Well, congratulations on nearing 1 year anniversary, and
Thank you.
congratulations on the new daughter. Congratulations on an amazing launch. I didn't hear too many frustrations or some other games that had launched prior to yours. They've had things that they hadn't foreseen or planned for yet, and it completely destroyed their launch. I hadn't heard those horror stories from anybody in the Illuvium community or those that partake in the game, almost daily. Uh, Congratulations on that. You've got a
Thank
wonderful
you.
product. You've got a wonderful plan going forward. Like I said, I've got some things that I'm just super anxious and eager, and I think I relate to you there. And like I said, not stalker. I do my homework. I am not a patient person myself,
Yeah.
so I want these, and I want them now. But we will wait patiently, and we'll build up our portfolios and get prepared for that day when it comes. So Is there
Awesome.
anything else that you would like to share with anybody that may be listening in?
No, I think we've covered it. I really appreciate the. It was actually a weird thing. Like I don't get to be on the sort of like ground level as much anymore. We've grown to be such a massive organization. But I remember going into Fan Guild and it was like 6 months ago now, whatever. And I was like, okay, let's check out what's happening here. You guys were playing big time. And I was like, hey, who's the founder here? Can I have a chat with them? Would really love to get you guys involved. Obviously, you have a huge amount of content creators. And yeah, it's been something that I've really enjoyed being back and talking to the guilds directly and seeing like, what are the pain points? What can we do to make things work? So yeah, I've really enjoyed the relationship that we're building here, and I want to see it grow into something really special over the next 12 to 18 months.
Well, I hope we can all continue that relationship with you because it seems like you're a person with an open door policy. Come in, talk to me, and whether it's in my Discord or reaching out in another means. I mean, you seem very personable, and I want anybody that's listening in. He may be the co-founder, he may be the CEO, but we're all human. We should all be able
Yeah,
to have a good
absolutely.
conversation back and forth. And really, this is a passion for you, and what an amazing passion for us to experience with you. So again, thank you so much. Thank you for your time. Thank you for everybody that's listening in. I hope nothing but the best going
Thank
forward.
you.
I hope we can keep this relationship open if there's ever a time that we want to get together and just kind of, find out where we're at the next checkpoint and where we're going to go in the future. That I'm very open to it. I would be very excited for it. But for now,
Absolutely.
have a wonderful rest of your day. Most of us will be ending our day on the state side, but we've got an audience around the world, and that's what makes Illuvium amazing as well, because it connects us all. So, thank you
Thank you.
again. Have a
Cheers.
great rest of the day. Take care, everyone.
Thanks, Jimmy. See you,
Mhm.
man.
Bye.
Thank you everyone for watching the interview. I hope you guys enjoyed it as much as I did. If you have any comments or questions, please drop them down below. Hit the notification button, like it, share it, and subscribe. I'm also going to be linking our newsletter to the website where you guys can find it at famguild.com. Feel free to browse the website and check out all of the other content creators that we have on there that are truly amazing. That being said, fam, thank you for all of the love and the support. I will see you guys on the next one.